recorder to the computer. And good afternoon, everyone. This is attorney Robyn McCoy with Political Coffee with Robyn and Tracey.
Hi, everybody. Happy Valentine's Day. It's your girl, T.M. Martin, and co-host of Political Coffee. I'm a lawyer by day and a political strategist by afternoon and sometimes night. And we're so glad to have you join us here on this special edition of Political Coffee called Trial Heat. And we're going to be joined in a moment by a couple of special guests, Nicole Blackman and Eric Brown. But Robyn, we're going to get right into it because the Trump impeachment trial, part deux, as I call it, it wrapped up yesterday. And, you know, we promoted this session of Political Coffee as legal analysis, but really it's more of a reaction show on the whole Trump impeachment process, part deux. And so let's just jump right into it. You know, I thought that we would cover aspects of the trial, our reaction to that, and, you know, talk about who was the hero of the trial, who was the villain, were there any standouts that broke the internet, so to speak, and then let's just get some commentary on where America goes next. And we're really looking forward to hearing from Nicole Blackman and of course you, Robyn, because you always have insightful comments, and we want to hear about the perspective from the Black Women Lawyers Association of Michigan, who actually drafted a resolution. Tell us more about that, Robyn.
Yeah, so happy Valentine's Day, everyone. And I do, you know, we always have our mug. And I have my Wonder Woman mug and I have my tea. I've got some green tea. Nicole, I don't know if you got the memo about the mug. We usually have a mug with something to drink. And Nicole, so we also want to introduce Nicole Blackman.
Yes.
You were invited to join us by Eric Brown. You want to tell us a little bit about yourself before we jump into our commentary on the trial?
Sure. I first of all would like to thank you all for hosting this show and for being invited. I know I can't thank Eric, but I'm thankful. But I am Nicole Blackman. I am a minister and the owner of Strategic Image Consulting, and I work with individuals to provide personal, professional, and career development consulting. So.
Okay. Well, welcome. So did you get a chance to watch any of the impeachment trial or the news headlines?
So I did. I saw some of the news headlines. I chose not to watch the impeachment because I kind of, if for the most part, knew what the outcome was going to be. So.
Me too.
Yeah, me too.
Hello.
Yeah, I mean, I watched some of it, and you know, as far as what you were saying, Tracey, so I'm the vice president for Black Women Lawyers in Michigan, and you know, we saw what happened on January 6th. I mean, you know, nobody could, I would say a lot of us kind of anticipated that something was going to happen because of former President Trump's rhetoric. We didn't exactly know when or how. I actually thought it was going to be more like something crazy was going to happen on the inauguration day. So January 6th happens, and then we get a call to action from our membership. They were like, we got to do something. And so we did put together a draft resolution condemning the acts of the insurrectionists. And and I sent an email to my Congresswoman, Debbie Dingell, and our senators, Senator Peters, Gary Peters, and Senator Debbie Stabenow. And basically—
Did you get a response? Did they respond?
Yes, they all responded. And
very good.
Yep, I got a response. And basically I said there were some, you know, that we had members that were like, no, Trump has got to go now. They were like, he's got to be removed. And you know, and then we see how everything played out. Senator Mitch McConnell's like, no, we need to wait till after he's out. And I think you used the word before, Tracey, this is like kabuki theater. Some of it,
yes.
You know, and so I did watch the trial, and, you know, I did see some, you know, I felt like the Democrats had some rising stars coming in as kind of in the prosecutorial role. I saw that one Republican who was coming up there and he was saying all these praises for the prosecution. And I was just kind of like, why does he have him in here? Because he was just off. And so I was just kind of like, whatever. And then the whole thing about the witnesses, you know, they voted to have witnesses. Then they just decided to admit the testimony of the statement of the lady from who she had heard some things. And
Herrera.
yeah, so and then they just went ahead and voted the way we all knew they didn't have the votes. I mean, it was what, 57 to 43, and they would have needed 67. They would have needed 2/3 votes in order to impeach him. So for me, it was curious too, because I teach a class. I am a professor at EMU, so I teach a class on law and African American experience, and we look at the history of Black folks from 1619 to the present, the cases. And we look at the Constitution, and I've taught the class 3 times now, and the last 2 times have been a lot of we look at the past and then we bring it to the present. We look at some of the white supremacist behaviors and presidents of the past, and we look at the present. And we were looking at Trump and the impeachment. So we had the class during the first impeachment, and then we had the class. We didn't have it during the second impeachment, but we had it during the election cycle. So it was actually very exciting class. We're talking about Black history, and we're talking about the presidential election, things like that. So we did a close analysis of the articles of impeachment, things of that nature. And all I had to say, I'm a criminal defense attorney. This is going in November to be 20 years. And so I'm in.
Congratulations.
Yes, thank you. Yes. And I do criminal, family law. I did historically juvenile. I know, Tracey, you do family and juvenile. And I know you have a background as a journalist as well. So, but yeah, so I'm in the courts, the state courts, on a day-to-day basis, where I see people, predominantly Black and low income, working class white folk. They are being charged and penalized. Black folk obviously have a heavier, stiffer penalty. So it's like, that's the concern that I have is, just the double standard. Trump said it. He said he could murder somebody in the street and he would get away with it. And so it just, we know we got a couple sisters coming for him out of New York, the Attorney General, and Georgia, but
Right.
We'll see.
Well, let me ask you something. You said that your class at Eastern Michigan University watched the first impeachment trial, and you've seen the second impeachment trial. And Nicole, did you by chance see the first impeachment trial at all?
No. And so my perspective will probably be a lot different, and I will probably ruffle feathers when I give my perspective. So, yeah.
Okay, well, that's a great teaser. We'll wait for it. Okay, so we're going to circle back to
this is Politico Copy. So
the reason why I asked, Robyn, is because these 2 impeachment trials were so different. First of all, you didn't have John Roberts, Supreme Court Chief Justice John Roberts, preside over the second Trump impeachment trial, which, many people were affronted by that. They were so insulted. Frankly, I was too. Apparently, John Roberts did not have time for it. Okay. And so then you got Leahy, who presided, and he was a bit of a snooze, but he, handled his business. But I ask you, Robyn, I mean, comparing the 2 impeachment trials, which one did you find to be more interesting? And which one do you think, I'm going to ask you to speculate, which one do you think your students might find more interesting?
Well, the first one, we talked about the trial, and we actually focused a lot on Congresswoman Val Demings. I was really impressed with her, and we talked about some of the impeachment managers, and it took longer, and they called witnesses, and so it was, you and I have done trials, so they actually had witnesses, and they, but to me, I felt like they had, I'd say the first trial, some people could say maybe they didn't have as strong evidence. It was speculation. The second trial, to me, the writing was on the wall. It was a no-brainer, but you didn't have the votes. So,
and the Democrats knew that going in. They knew that going in, but I think that somehow they thought they would be able to change the hearts and minds of the senators. And frankly, this was shocking to me that there were actually 7 Republican senators that voted guilty as charged.
Right,
on that one charge.
That.
I expected 5, but 7, and so it remains to be seen what's going to happen with their careers. But look, going back to the trial, I did see both impeachment trials. I agree with you. The first one was, that was very flimsy. I think that was Nancy Pelosi's response to people like our Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib. When I say our, I mean Michigan Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib, pressing to impeach the MFer. Okay, I'm sorry if I'm offending anybody, but I'm
Well,
not saying the actual
no.
word.
It wasn't just Rashida Tlaib. A lot of people that felt like Trump should have. He's been the whole time he was in there. He was doing all kinds of crazy stuff that we know. If he was a Black person, if he was a Black president, Obama wouldn't have been able to get away with half or any of the stuff that Trump was doing. So
True, but I thought it was flimsy, the first one, and the second one, frankly, I just I was not convinced that there was sufficient evidence to render a conviction, whether you have the votes or not, because I watched that rally and I played back the president's words. I want to get your opinion on this too, Nicole. And yes, he got the crowd riled up at that rally at the Capitol on January 6th. And then you had his son, Donald J. Trump Jr., who I met, by the way, in person and talked with extensively, riling people up and saying some irresponsible things, but wasn't POTUS at the time. And then you had Rudy Giuliani, the former mayor of New York City, a member of the bar, riling up the crowd even further, saying trial by combat, which I thought was very irresponsible. I wonder how he gets away with that with the bar. But in terms of the president, I heard him use terms like fight, and we use that term all the time in terms of lawyers fighting for our clients, marching to the Capitol. But he did use the word peaceful, and I just wasn't convinced that that was sufficient. But I tell you, I had a real problem with the impeachment initially for the second trial because I thought that 45 was denied due process. It was a snap impeachment. The POTUS did not have counsel. There were no witnesses called for the actual impeachment, not the conviction aspect of the trial. And I just had an issue with that, really based on principles of free speech and the First Amendment. Nicole, what's your take? Oh, Robyn, go ahead.
Yeah, I know I want to welcome Eric Brown.
Eric's in the house.
I see you have joined us. And what do you
Hi,
have?
Eric.
We talked about our mugs. Do you have a mug of a drink? We always talk about I have a Wonder Woman with tea.
Yes, I do have a mug, but as far as Wonder Woman, I would not be carrying one of those per se.
Of course not.
But mine is Advantage Health Center. Advantage Health Center is a organization in the city of Detroit that provides health care to the underserved and the homeless. And I'm on their board. So whenever I have opportunity to give them a shout out, I do that.
Excellent.
Okay, and then we've been talking about the impeachment trial, the first and the second. For me, the second one is, to me.
Well, Robyn, can we back up? I've got to introduce Eric Brown because I've known Eric for a long time. I tell you, I've always enjoyed the political candidate forums that he helped put on with his fraternity, Kappa Alpha Psi. And for our viewing audience, Eric Brown is an HR professional. He's an activist who says it is well beyond time to address the literacy problem in urban communities. He's an Eastern Michigan University alum. He says that party politics sucks. And he is the new host of the new show, Reality Strikes, that will be airing on the resurgent WJZZ in Detroit. Welcome, Eric.
Well, welcome. And yes,
thank you.
And Eric, I think I might have been on a panel with you because I'm a professor. I teach a class on law and African-American experience. And I've had some panels. I've been on a panel about reparations and racism. I think you were on on the panels that Dr. Okafor had.
Yes, we were on a few panels that Dr. Okafor put on during the Obama presidency. As a matter of fact, we sat on, I think, 3 panels as we talked about his year-to-year success or progress that Dr. Okafor puts on, because I'm on the advisory council for the African Americans Department of University, and I've sat on, numerous panels. And I've seen you as well, Robyn, on numerous panels. Even though I was not on the panel with you, I do recall the reparations panel that you sat on as well.
Yeah, so shout out to Dr. Okafor, shout out to EMU. So,
I gotta add this. Eric made national headlines with his fraternity, Kappa Alpha Psi, when he led a group of his fraternity brothers in Detroit to Ford Field during the Lions-Vikings game for the Kaepernick protest, to protest on behalf of Colin Kaepernick. And again, that made national headlines. He
awesome.
also was awarded 2014-2015 Northern Province Brother of the Year by the Kappa Alpha Psi organization. And Robyn, in terms of Eastern Michigan University, he's also the recipient of the EMU Alumni Achievement Award. And so we're, very grateful that Eric is in the house and join us along with Nicole Blackman, and who introduced herself a moment ago. So, okay, back to you, Robyn, and then let's continue this discussion.
So again, I have a different viewpoint from what Tracey has, because like I said, for Trump, it's been, I don't even know how to, it's like we decompressing right now from Trump, because I don't know, I'm like almost like suffering from withdrawal. It's like we had 4 years a white supremacist president. I mean, there were some good things. I'm not gonna, in my class, I talk about the good and the bad. I'm not gonna say he was just completely horrible. There were some things that he did that was good, but then it was a lot of stuff. It was just like traumatic, the presidency. And I feel the second trial, the first trial, you could say maybe the evidence wasn't as clear. The second trial, it was clear as day, but you didn't have the votes. And I just think it just speaks to the issue of white privilege in America, that you could, and what Trump said, he said he could murder somebody in the street and get away with it. And we know he still has some potential charges pending in New York and Georgia with some sisters. So we'll see how that pans out. But I just felt like, Black women lawyers in Michigan, we did put together a resolution. We feel that the insurrectionists, everybody involved from the president on down, other senators, congresspeople, anybody involved should be investigated and criminally charged, because that's what I see today in court. When I have clients, most of the Black ones are brothers, sisters, they don't get the benefit of white privilege. They get prosecuted, convicted, most of them. So if we talk about fairness and justice, but we're in an apartheid system. So that's my viewpoint. Nicole, we want to start with you. What do you think, and then jump to Eric.
Well, as I mentioned, my perspective is somewhat different, but yet I do agree, in regards to what was said in regards to if President Trump were to murder someone in the streets, he could get away with it. But I think it's all in perspective also, so that could have been him just giving an example of, yes, I am a white man. And if that were to occur, then yes, I could possibly get away with it, as opposed to, as we know, a Black person who actually does that and not get away with it. I have many white friends, and we have these gray area conversations all of the time, and I think that we as Black people, we have to look beyond just our Blackness, if you will, and just look at diversity as a whole, and we have to come out of the mindset. We have to wake up, actually, and we have to come out of the mindset of always being the ones who are being accused of certain things. Although it's been that way. We know history, it speaks for itself. However, not everyone experiences the exact same thing all the time. So everyone's experiences are not the same. So, for me, I have had experiences, in regards to racial tension or, disagreements and things of that nature. But that was a situation that occurred at that time, but it wasn't something that affected my life to where, I'm just, against certain things. As far as President Trump is concerned, I believe that he will still be the president of the United States of America. And that's just keeping it real. And that is because there are a lot of behind the scenes things that are taking place that are not being necessarily exposed per se in the mainstream media, which we know the mainstream media, if you're always listening to someone or allowing someone to program you and to tell you things, as opposed to going and doing your research yourself, and not only just going from one aspect, but looking at things from a whole, then we will know the truth. But there are so many people who don't take out the time to do the research for themselves, and they're always listening to what people say, and that's how they get caught up. And so then,
Right. But Nicole, America's made up of a nation of followers. But you just said something a moment ago. I've got to ask you about, what do you mean that Donald J. Trump, the 45th president of the United States of America, will still be the president? Do you mean in 2024 that he's coming back, or what?
So we're just speaking in general. So again, I mentioned I am a minister. So taking things from a biblical standpoint, if we do our research, again, you know, the Bible says to study to show thyself approved. And so when we study the word and we look at history from the biblical standpoint, everything coincides. You know, we are spiritual beings housed in a natural body. So we have to understand that there are spiritual entities that are invisible unless you're able to see in the spirit realm. So if you're able to see in the spirit realm the things that are going on, and understand that we war not against flesh and blood, but that we war against the rulers and principalities in darkness, then we can fully understand what's going on. So if we want to look at a particular party, I'm not a Democrat and I'm not a Republican, because I don't vote for a party, but I do have strong values, morals, and beliefs that allow me to vote for God as opposed to man. So that's where my perspective, my belief, and the truth comes from. So I strongly believe, based on the spiritual knowledge that I have, that President Donald Trump will continue to be the president of the United States of America.
And
as a substitute for God, as a substitute for God?
No, there is no substitute, because God is God. But you have to understand, no, but we have to understand God's word. We have to understand God's principles and things of that. And so when we study the word to understand what God's principles are, then we don't have to necessarily think so much, because if we say that we trust God, then we have to trust him. And we understand that there is no perfect person. None of us that are on this panel are perfect. We all have our shortcomings. We've all done whatever we've done in the dark or whatever. You know what I'm saying? That's just the reality of it, because we're all human.
That the outcome of this second impeachment trial was divine intervention?
It was something that was definitely prophesied that was going to occur. And so, so for those who are spiritually connected and who are actually awake and aware, then we would know that it's like, oh, okay, so yeah, this is a part of the prophecy that's being fulfilled, and so everything else will play out. So it's just a matter of a watch and see, you know, as opposed to, again, listening to the mainstream media and not doing our due diligence to do our in-depth research.
Well, Nicole, yeah, I do agree. I don't think that a person should just be limited to one, you know, like some people just watch MSNBC or CNN. They don't watch Fox, or they don't watch. I think we should be watching the BBC. You know, I'm a spiritual person. I the word, and, you know, Hosea 4:6, my people perish for lack of knowledge. Your perception, I have family members that are Trump supporters that believe that he is still the president. But I mean, again, Tracey and I are lawyers, and on the legal realm, there was an election. President Biden and Kamala Harris won, and what I would say is, I think that Trump is going to still, so I don't perceive, I mean, and the reality that I see again is that President Biden is the president, but Trump still is going to have an influence. He's going to be influencing what happens.
Without a doubt, without a doubt. I mean, Trump has already said you were going to hear from him. He's already released a statement. We're going to hear more from him. I do believe that he's going to continue to be the leader of the Republican Party. But hey, I'd like to pivot to Eric Brown. Jump in, Eric.
Yeah,
what is your
perspective as our Black male? So what is your perspective on all this?
My perspective as it relates to him, I do feel very strongly that the trial, whatever you want to call it, that took place, I think there was an awakening for some of the.
Some people call it a sham. Some people call it a sham.
A fraud. I'll get to that in a minute, because, you know, on January 6th, I was on a Zoom meeting participating with a flawed process when it came to the appointment of a new county commissioner in Wayne County. So I saw.
I know what you're talking about.
Right. So I saw the events as they were happening on January the 6th. And the unfortunate thing about it is that it's a shame that it would have taken someone to have been killed and someone being an elected official for people to understand the gravity of the situation on January 6th. There's no attachment to them because those that were killed were not elected officials, number one. I think one or two died because of a heart attack. Right. The woman that died, she got shot. So one of the most
emergencies. Three were
right. Three, yeah. So there's no attachment to those that were elected. They see those individuals as casualties of war, so to speak.
Collateral damage.
Right, collateral damage. So you look at the number 45. Let's go back to early on in his private life career. And for him to say that I could shoot someone in Central Park and be acquitted, that's a very interesting analogy, considering that he was one of the forefront people that falsely accused 5 individuals in Central Park. So here's the irony. Right. So here's the irony of that. They were falsely accused. He said he could do it and walk away. Now you have the January 6th event, and I disagree with you a little bit, Tracey. His words, yeah, we all say fight. I mean, on the yard, we do our step shows. Yeah, we do our step shows, and we might ridicule the other fraternities, but at the end of the day, we still could be friends, dap it up afterwards. Right. His words actually did incite those individuals. Some of those individuals, yeah, they might be covering now.
They started storming the Capitol before he was even finished speaking. So how could that be?
Well, because
they started storming it because it started with his words.
Too.
He called his rally, Tracey, Saving America. What the hell are he saving America for? What was he saving? America does not need saving from him. This is the same individual.
Stop the steal. And so 45 and his followers thought that the election was stolen. That's what we had a pandemic. This was unprecedented times where people were voting by absentee ballot. Some people thought that the process was flawed.
But the actual name of that event on January 6th was called the Save America Rally. Okay. That was the name of the event. So what is he saving, first and foremost? But then you look at the situation where on June 30th, the Black Lives Matter rally, peaceful protests. You got guards and armed services all over the place. Peaceful protests, remember, 316 people were arrested. January 6th, only 61 people were arrested. So that's an example right there of white privilege in America.
I get no argument from me, brother.
So
I agree with the Black Women Lawyers Association of Michigan resolution. I sent it to you, Eric. I don't know if you had a chance to see
it. I read it.
Whereas in 2017, the same police had no trouble expelling peaceful healthcare protesters, several of whom were in wheelchairs, resulting in 80 arrests out of 100
people. Right.
Right. And so we saw what happened at the Capitol. I mean, now they are cracking down on them because they got the video. And I mean, you have people who were psychologists, doctors, lawyers, HR professionals. I haven't heard about any ministers being caught up in that mess, but you get no argument from me. What they did was wrong. I can't really say they were domestic terrorists, though, because there is no domestic terrorist law on the federal books. There's a definition of domestic terrorism, but there is no domestic terrorism law. But we did see
they were the same. They were the same.
We saw malicious destruction of property.
But they were the same domestic terrorists. Yeah, they were the same domestic terrorists that white people call blacks in the urban neighborhoods when they tear up their neighborhoods. So we can't say that only blacks are domestic terrorists when something like that happened. White people are just as much domestic terrorists, even worse.
Well, Merrick Garland, who is the attorney general, he was involved with the conviction of Timothy McVeigh, who was a domestic terrorist. Yes, Tracey is correct. We do need to have more laws in place that specifically delineate domestic terrorists. When it's in our community, black on black crime, there's white on white crime. That's not domestic terrorism. That's not the same. Domestic terrorism, Timothy McVeigh blew up, Oklahoma, had bombs, all that stuff. So it's, you have international terrorists coming from other countries, and they put us on all these different alerts, had us scared when Bush was in office. But the name of the game right now is you have domestic terrorists, predominantly white, and some of them have been amped up by the president, former president, not the current president, but amped up by his language. And if you're going to say, let's walk with Tracey's argument. Let's say, oh, it's freedom of speech. He wasn't really riling them up. Well, the same consideration that you're going to give to the former president, why aren't we giving that to my clients on a daily basis who get charged with carrying a concealed weapon in Michigan? And they're like, well, it's you have the Second Amendment right. And, I can open carry. And then most of them, black folk, some working class white folk, they get charged for having a gun in their car. And most of them is legal guns. And they end up getting a 5-year felony. And then, I have talked to the prosecutor in Wayne County. They have a specialized program where they're working with them. But across the state, you have in the legislature, they have put in these punitive laws. The laws were designed to get after Black folk, but they actually are. I tell my white clients, you know what? We are penalizing people more than any other country, and y'all are getting caught up. White people are affected. Their laws were designed to go after Black folk. White people are being affected too. And the issue is this, when I talk to my students, we talk about the law, the rule of the law, and there needs to be consistency. If there are laws in place and standards, and if Trump was, to me, I look at Trump, he was like Dennis the Menace. I know some people said, don't say that because you're being offensive to Dennis the Menace. He was like Dennis the Menace in the White House. He didn't get I got whooped when I was a child, okay? I got whooped. My mama regulated me. I know Trump's parents sent him to a military school, but it obviously didn't stick because he just was buck wild, out of control. Sometimes you saw where they did have him in control when he was reading his speech. But I'm just saying, if he was Black, if he was
Robyn, but if you thought that 45 was buck wild while he was in office, what is going to happen now? What's going to happen going forward? I would like to hear from the panel. How do we, heal? Can America heal? We're going to have Judge Leonia Lloyd coming on Political Coffee next week. She's written a book called Her Honor, Her Honor. She's going to talk about healing and restorative justice. But how can we heal, or do we? I mean, are we going to continue to get more and more divided and polarized in this country politically? And is it going to explode eventually?
There's no healing or uniting. I mean, it's a joke for any politician to say that when you have politicians that throughout their career have not talked about healing, have not talked about uniting. The media allowed the person that won on November 3rd to be held to a different standard. No one, they didn't vet him. They just, because of their dislike, and I'm not a fan of number 45 at all, but I'm gonna call a spade. Because of their dislike of him, the media did not vet the eventual number 46. They gave him an easy path to the presidency because of their dislike for number 45, and that's a shame. And this country calls itself the greatest country in the world. There's no healing. The fabric of this nation has always been about dogging other folks. The fabric of this nation has always been about hate. The fabric of this nation has always been about kidnapping people from their homeland, bring them over here and raping the women, bastardizing the kids, but then we're supposed to now all of a sudden heal. That's why one of my biggest disappointments from the election comes with my disappointment with Black people for the buying into that crap. On the one hand, you want to talk all this crap about how we have been dogged, you want reparations, but then you want to sing Kumbaya with the white man because you think he's all about you now. No, that's not the case. Yeah, Ayanna Pressley.
Who else were people going to vote for then? The Green Party, a minor party? Because
but that's the other issue that's wrong with America. We are so conditioned into thinking you have to vote for an R or a D. When an R or D not worth a damn, why not give somebody else a chance? I voted third party twice. The last two elections, 2012, I didn't vote for Barack Obama. I didn't feel that he nor Mitt Romney earned my vote. I darn sure did not feel that Biden or number 45 earned my vote, and I was not going to just give it to them. Whenever I had conversations with people to ask them for a cogent reason on why you were supporting Biden, their response was, I don't like number 45. Well, hell, if you don't like number 45, you might as well, they might as well vote for Mickey Mouse. They might as well wrote Mickey Mouse as a candidate.
To President Biden's credit, he has come into office. He signed all these executive orders he has come at it from an approach of healing. He is trying. You have to give him a chance. But I agree with
I think we're confusing, Tracey, with all due respect, we're confusing healing with pandering.
Oh,
executive orders don't mean anything to me. Executive orders is just a run around because remember in 2012, the people voted against right to work. An executive order and end around is what got right to work in this state, signed by the governor at the time. The same thing with the emergency manager law. Emergency manager law was put in place by Granholm. Now Snyder supervised it based on what she already had on the books.
true.
So we can't be mad at Snyder when it was initiated by a Democrat.
Well, we have, Tracey and I have talked about that, and I hear what Nicole was saying too. My father is an independent. I understand if we got a critical mass of people for us to be independents and have a third party, then a third party vote would be viable. But right now, it's not really going anywhere. I know that some of my students, when I talked about Biden, because I have been, I'm full disclosure, I was supportive. Well, actually, I was supportive initially of Elizabeth Warren and Kamala Harris, Cory Booker, and then but everybody went.
I like Andrew Yang.
But it's like the Black community. They said, the Congressman Clyburn, he said there was a Black woman who said go for Biden. Black folk, we took the safe choice. We went with Biden, and then we had to politic and make sure we got Kamala in there because he wasn't even looking for a Black woman. So I would say it's like with Biden, I feel like we have a better chance, but it's not going to be like complacency. Black folk can't be like with Obama, be complacent. Oh, we got a Black president, so wonderful. We have to be on Biden and make sure there's accountability, and Kamala, make sure there's accountability. And, I've lived in South Africa, so I've studied about apartheid, and I was there when they were doing Truth and Reconciliation. America needs to have truth and reconciliation, and it's in the Democratic Party, the Republican Party. It's all racism is racism, sexism, classism is all over this country. We just had the anniversary of the release of Nelson Mandela, 20 years in prison, and and so it's like America needs work, it needs prayer. It's Black History Month, although I will say I'm Black every day. We don't, I appreciate the month and the history, but I'm Black every day, and I feel that. I do see, I'm not going to dispute. I do see you watch certain channels and you see that they lean one way and they lean the other way. And Black folks, it's like, we are moral people. We're spiritual people. A lot of us are. And you do have to watch. I'm a Democrat, but you do have to watch the Democrats. You have to,
But let's be totally honest. If the media had given the people an opportunity to vet Joe Biden would not be president to this day. I would die on that statement. Joe Biden, he gave less than a damn about Blacks. Then supported segregationists. 94 crime bill was a supersize of the 1991 Police Officers Bill of Rights. And then just like that, pandering with regards to the private prisons, talking about no more funding for private prisons. First of all, there are only 8% of the federal prisons that are privatized. So people don't do their research. So they think that he's going to just take all the money away from all the federal prisons. That's a lie. Private prisons. Only 8% of federal prisons are privatized. That's what he's talking about, taking the money away from. The private system is no more than a modern day, 13th Amendment proves that, a modern day slave trade. So again, had there been some vetting, had people not been so lazy, Biden would not. And first of all, don't get me talking about Kamala Harris and her record. The same woman that loved Black men until she got famous, then she went with a white man. So come on, we got to keep it moving.
With Montel, was it Montel?
To do what they got it.
Mayor Willie Brown from San Francisco, and then she married what's his name?
Now, y'all.
But she was only nothing. She was only polling at 2%. Black people were not giving her any money, but now all of a sudden they love her. So why we not supporting it before?
Here's the deal with Biden and Kamala, they're not perfect. Just like you had leaders in South Africa that were part of the apartheid system, but what better people to fix the system than people that were involved with making the system? And so, I had students, they were not.
I'm not going to give them credit for screwing up the criminal justice system and then give them the opportunity to fix it. I mean, that doesn't make sense.
Parents who didn't send their children to school, and that was the reason that people, Black people in particular, didn't care for her, and progressive people across the board. But I got to ask the panel this. Okay, so this is interesting. You're representing these different sides of the equation and on different political ends of the spectrum. So what's going to happen in 2024? Do you think that Joe Biden will run again? If he doesn't, will Kamala Harris run? And will Trump circle back and run? Because we've heard that Nikki Haley on the Republican side may run. Senator Josh Hawley. I think Pence is completely out of the equation.
He is way.
2024 is going to be a fascinating year. What's going to
I'd
happen?
like to see Larry Hogan.
I think that once everything plays out, then everyone will see and be able to make I want to say educated, but we are educated people and not everybody made the right choice, anyway, this time. So I want to just share this thought.
Okay.
So we know that, President Obama, he's mixed, right? We know
half
that
Black, half white.
Right.
His father was Kenyan, African, not Black American, Kenyan.
Right. And so
there is kind of a divide between Black Americans and Africans, Black Africans.
And so then we also look at Kamala Harris, who's not strictly Black. I mean, you know what I'm saying? And anyway, so we think about that.
She's Jamaican and she's Indian, and there are Moors that traveled in India. So there are some Indian people that are Black. They may not want to acknowledge it. They Black. Africa, there's African people all over the world. Some of them don't want it. They come here to be white.
Minister Nicole, are you saying that Kamala Harris is conveniently Black? Because I heard that she was basically raised.
No, yeah, she is conveniently Black. No, I'll say it for Nicole. She is conveniently Black. Her mother raised her as an Indian. Her mother did raise her as a Black culture.
Her book. I don't know if you read her book, and I've met her. Her mother raised her as Black, but obviously cognizant of her Indian ancestry. And I just want to say this, and Eric, I feel you. I've heard a lot of brothers that are upset with Kamala because she's with a white man. But I mean,
I'm not being upset with her with a white man. It's her political record.
Just say this, as a Black woman, it is not easy for Black women. A lot of Black women want to be with Black men, but it's hard because we're in a prison industrial complex. A lot of them have been locked up, and you do see the commercials. They promote a lot of the Black woman and the white man. I mean, sometimes sisters have to do what they gotta do.
Harris could have been with any Black man that she wanted to, as long as he had enough money.
Right. But the point that I was the point that I'm going to prove, and the thought process is, as we look at the way that everything was set up for the vote. So if we really, really think about it, Kamala Harris was chosen because of her Black heritage so that they could get the Black vote. And if we think about necessarily the views that, they call it civil rights, and I'm going back to the question that you asked. It just says Marty and Martin. I'm sorry, Tracey. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm trying to Tracey, but if going back to that, so we have to look at the strategies that have been used against Black people and their vote. So we look at the civil rights, and we understand that the civil rights started out with just Black people being able to have the privilege to do the things to be able to live and to breathe in the United States of America, period. So right. Whatever. And so I remember, and Robyn, I heard you say, you being Democratic, and I remember being in middle school, and one of my teachers, she said, well, if you Black, you better vote Democrat, and I looked at her, and I was like, well, why? Now, I didn't understand what Democrat, Republican meant. My question was, but why? So it seems as if, because the Democratic Party knows, for the most part, that they can count on the Black people to vote for them, whatever their hidden agendas are, they're going to get passed because they know that Black people are going to vote for them. Someone told me about, and I can't remember the name of it, but it was a documentary on YouTube, and it specifically spoke about that, but it showed a politician who was white, who was saying different words that meant different things. And if you did not pay attention, there you go. So, and if you weren't paying attention, then you're just like, oh yeah, you know, we want to vote for that. So that's just like, you know, with having the security cameras around the city of Detroit. Okay. Now, of course, people want to be safe in their neighborhoods and in their homes. They want to be safe. So, okay, we're going to make it safe for you. So we're going to put these video cameras at every place we can, at every intersection, at every gas station, every store, because you want to be safe. But at the same time, is anybody not understanding that you're being watched all the time? So now you have Big Brother, if you will, in your community, watching everything that you do. So now they're able to play on your emotions. They're able to say, okay, well, you know, we're going to give this to low income people. I mean, we can talk about the welfare system if we want to, you know, and how for a lot of people,
you got to come back.
I'm sorry.
But no, I hear what there's issues with identity theft. They have, people want to be safe. They want to have cameras, but there's issues with, you know, cross-cultural misidentification. And so it's like you want to be safe, but you don't want to be caught up and wrongfully accused. And I will say this, I'm a Democrat, but I have voted. I will vote for an independent and a Republican. What I have been, my dad is an independent, and my dad says, you support the people that support you. So you don't, there is trickery that goes on both sides of the aisle. People, so it's even, we look at that, Tracey.
Robyn, people are tired of it. People are tired of that. And so I go to Eric. Eric, is it viable for a third major party to emerge in America? Because I've been talking to all sides, and you have very progressive people who say they are fed up with the Democratic Party and it's become establishment. They don't really care for Biden. They don't care for Kamala Harris. And then you have what's going on over here on the Republican side with Trump and the establishment. There's a divide. You know, Trump even said that he was talking about thinking about starting the Patriot Party. Is there something similar that might happen on the more progressive side, Eric Brown?
It's going to have to be. One of the best things that happened to the Republican Party was the Tea Party. Why the Democrats or people that call themselves Democrats have not come up with an alternative? It has to happen, because and people have to be true to themselves. People can't keep saying how tired they are of politics, the D's and the R's, but they still, like robots, go to the ballot box and vote for a D or an R. I mean, that's the most asinine, you know, contrarian thing that people can do. So the Patriot Party, I don't see any legs with that. You're still going to have the same people that have been radicalized. You know, that's one thing that's different about terrorism. Here in America, these people get radicalized because they're inundated with this crap on the television programs all day, every day. People get mad at Fox News, but all you got to do is turn to MSNBC, which is a complete opposite of Fox News. So it's like, come on, you can't have it both ways. And I try to watch all the shows on the news, and I can't even watch at a certain time. I can't even watch after a certain time of day. I don't even watch CNN anymore because you just get tired of the.
I watch it in moderation. I mean, because you can watch PBS. I watch the BBC because again.
Yeah, the BBC. Yeah, BBC is great to watch.
It's just us, and it's like, and I'm in the Word. Again, we're with the whole TV, the whole scenario, it's programming. They're programming us. They're socializing us, Black people. Certain things happen. They trigger us. They want us to protest, get in the streets, and then you get.
It's almost like mind control.
It's mind control on Devo, and then you get some crazy. We protesting peacefully, and then you get some crazy white people come out. I'm not, you know, and they do some stuff, and then the Black Lives Matter protester did it. Oh no, that's not us. We're not doing that.
Because Robyn and Tracey and Nicole, take into consideration, had there been anyone running against Biden but number 45, he would not have been able to. There's no way he would have been able to run a campaign from a basement. There's no way he would have been able to run an invisible campaign because he wasn't out on the trail. When he was out on the trail, maybe 10 people showed up at his rallies. See, that's what legitimized the vote totals. When you only have so few people at your rallies, but all of a sudden you get 80 million votes, and Joe Biden is not an 80 million vote getter. No way.
I disagree. I think.
Come on, Robyn. It's 81
million. It's 81 because it's the lesser of two evils. It's just like with Hillary, except that people did not like. There were a lot of people.
But Robyn, didn't you say that you were?
And when you talk about who made the decision, Black people, Black women made the decision. They felt that Trump was. They felt it's the lesser of two evils. They felt that Biden was a better choice. So Black people spearheaded this. We voted.
And you also have to.
But didn't you say? Hold on. Let me say this. Let me say this, Tracey, because I hate.
Verified did a lot of organizing, which also benefited John Ossoff and Reverend Raphael Warnock in that Georgia Senate race with the runoffs.
So let me make a point, because this is one thing I hate hearing. I hate hearing people talk about the lesser two evils, but then at the same time they talk about being prayerful and into religion. You can't be into religion, say that you vote for the lesser two evils.
Okay, well, he's Catholic. He's a man of God. There's clear. Trump was a womanizer, raped a little girl. I mean, and then people.
Biden has his issues. Biden has his issues with women too.
Critical to the word. The word is moral. He's cheated on his wives. He is locking up kids, immigrant children. Okay, I know you guys are talking about Obama. What happened under Obama? Yes, he did. And I knew the Obamas back when I was in college, because Michelle mentored me, and Barack was teaching at the law school. And they were regular people. They were beautiful people. They ascended to the power that they did. But Barack said it. He said, "Look, you guys have to make me accountable." And so I just say this: whoever it is, we have to make them accountable. Tracey and I wrote a letter to Trump asking for Kwame Kilpatrick to be released. You know, even though I was not a big
and
Trump
look what
fan,
happened, America. He got released.
Well, he got community. He still owed them dollars to the city of Detroit.
Well, he can go write a book. Look, he can go do a book tour. He can go write a book, make a movie, and pay that off. Okay,
well, he better put that ink to pen, because he owed them $4 million. But still, one of the points that Nicole made, and I agree with, and I think we glossed over that. What has helped both Kamala Harris, Kamala, where you pronounce her name, and I find it amazing. Black people get mad when you pronounce a Black person's name wrong. We've been pronouncing name wrongs all our lives. Maybe that's another story for another day.
Yeah.
What made Barack Obama and both Kamala Harris so likable to white America is that they became more palatable because they don't have the same grievances as traditional Blacks in America. They don't. And that's what made them so palatable to white America.
And that's the reality of being in a racist apartheid system. I mean, Barack, his father came from Kenya. Now, Kenya was colonized. There was racism in Kenya. Jamaica, there were slaves too. They're in the Caribbean. And in India, the white man, I took a class on, my background's anthropology. You had the racist white man all over the world doing stuff. But I do hear you. They are they're lighter. They're more palatable than a Black or brown person who is at ADOS, you know, and I understand. We do want to see that. We want to see that happening, but that's why people chose Biden over Trump. They felt like, oh man, Trump is just so intense, the back and forth, and then Biden's not perfect, but they were like, oh, let's go. They felt Biden was a safer bet than Trump.
And he's saying that just proves the point of how the strategy that was used by having Kamala Harris to serve as the vice president, that was the point that was proven, because they knew that it was going to get the Black vote. So they, regardless of whether they did their due diligence to do their research or not, just for the simple fact that, oh, another Black person or African American can, you know, help to rule the country, and it's going to be great, and everybody's going to sing Kumbaya, and, you know, we're going to be all get together in unity. That's not what's going to happen. And it was
your point earlier, Tracey. 2024, Kamala Harris will not win the presidency. Even if Biden is going to go run for the election, he'll be 97 years old.
Well,
but
he can run it. It could be
Cuomo. He can run it. Yeah, he can run again. But
although they've been coming for Cuomo, or Stacey Abrams could run.
Stacey Abrams is going to be busy running Georgia
for governor, right? Yeah, so
for governor. But I agree with you, Eric. I think Biden's a one-termer. I think there's a trend for one-term presidents now. He's a one-termer. I don't think that this country will coalesce and vote in a Kamala Harris. I find it interesting, Minister Nicole, that, you know, people would not support Kamala Harris for her POTUS run, but they would as the number 2, the vice president, which is shunned aside and typically has no power. You know what they say, that Susan Rice is actually running the country right now because Kamala Harris, well, Biden, you know, I don't know what he's doing, but signing executive orders in front of him. But Kamala Harris is distracted by what's going on in the Senate because she has to be, because she's a tiebreaker. And Susan Rice, they say, is actually the shadow POTUS.
Well,
So,
but Biden has his background to, again, it's about what we said about accountability. Biden has been in the Senate all those years. He knows how it runs. He, remember he said he was able to deal with the white supremacists. So it's like, if you're able, if you
mean deal with the white supremacists, he was with the white supremacists.
Wait. See, that's what I'm saying. You said you know how to work the system. You made promises, so we have to make him accountable, just like anybody else.
So what you're saying, Robyn, is because he was a former plantation owner, he know how to deal with Negroes. Because we former residents of the plantation.
If you watch on Netflix, they talk about the crack conspiracy scenario, and they talk about
that was right, a great documentary.
It was great. They talk about Reagan on up to the, and they came up to the president. And they said,
you gotta watch that, Trace. That's a good documentary.
But see, Eric, they said there were Black folk that were saying to Clinton and Biden, do something, lock up the drug dealers. But it's like they didn't have the wherewithal to say, no, stop bringing the drugs. Like Maxine Waters said, stop bringing the drugs into our community. And see, we talk about scripture. This is Sunday, but
the same Maxine Waters is in a gated community while her people live in squalor.
See, here's the deal. Well, she got to deal with Trump sending crazy people over to her house.
She living in a gated community well before Trump.
No, but what I'm saying is this. They are white. We are in a racist country. They put the drugs in the community to kill us off, but we are their people. We did not die off. And then see, what do they talk about? There's scripture context here. They try to come after us, and then it came back on them with the opioid crisis. They dying, right. They getting sick. God don't like ugly. Okay, you gotta come for us. We are the original people, and then it's gonna come back on your ass. And that's exactly, excuse my language, but I'm saying it comes back.
You got two ministers on the call, Robyn. We've got Minister Nicole, and I was ordained as a minister.
Yes, I did.
This past week, I'm now known as Minister Martin. We'll talk more about that. But we've got to wrap this up because it's Saint Valentine's Day.
I know.
Everybody has plans. By the way, Eric, I love your jacket. That's the Kappa jacket that you're wearing.
Yes, it is. Well, one of them. We have a candy apple red, but I don't wear the candy apple red because I ain't got time for people to think I'm on Showtime at the Apollo. Or I'm one of the Rockettes or something.
We gotta have both of you guys back. You have very interesting perspectives, and then I want to hear more about the Colin Kaepernick, the protest and all that.
Let me say one more thing though, Robyn and Tracey.
Sure, go ahead.
In 2024, and I predicted this already. It will be probably Kamala, whatever her name is, and Nikki Haley, and trust me, America will not elect a Black person before they elect a white woman to be the president.
Oh, interesting prediction. And before we close, I would like to hear from the panel. At this time, who is your hero, villain, and one to watch in political America right now, in this political climate? If you have one. Hero, villain, and one to watch.
God.
Well, I would say hero and one to watch in the same sentence as Larry Hogan out of Maryland. And without a doubt, villain will always be number 45. I mean, he's been the worst in my lifetime that I've ever voted for president, so he's definitely the villain.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Okay, Minister Nicole?
I'm still watching.
You're still watching?
I'm still watching.
Well, my hero, even though, again, my students, they didn't have a lot of love. My hero is Kamala Harris. I met her. She's not perfect, but she's doing her thing. Sisters got to do what they got to do. So she's my hero. My villain is Mitch McConnell. I can't stand, I don't know, it's Mitch McConnell and Lindsey Graham. They get on even my Republican relatives can't stand them. Oh, the wishy-washiness. And then the one to watch is Stacey Abrams.
Okay, interesting. Okay, so for my hero, I've got a tie. In regards to this second impeachment trial for Trump, it would be Joe Neguse. He's out of Colorado.
Oh, yeah, okay.
He was one of the House managers and led the prosecution team. Eloquent, beautiful advocate. He was so impressive to me, even though his team didn't win, but that happens, we know that, right, Robyn? And then also tied with Stacey Plaskett from the Virgin Islands. She's a delegate from from the at-large district. She was very impressive as well with her performance in the court with respect to this impeachment trial. In terms of my villain, it would be Mitch McConnell, the Senate Minority Leader, who on one hand says that in essence, Trump was guilty as hell, but yet votes not guilty in terms of the impeachment trial. And then in terms of one to watch, I would say you better watch out for Senator Josh Hawley. People love him in terms of the whole First Amendment free speech fight. You got to watch that guy because I think he's going to be going far in politics. And there again is rumor that he may run in 2024, but we've got to see what Trump's going to do.
Okay, all right, everyone. So this has been Political Coffee with Robyn and Tracey.
And thank you so much, Eric Brown
yes,
and
you,
Minister
Eric.
Nicole Blackman.
Thank you for the invite.
And yeah, hope you all have a wonderful Valentine's Day and stay safe, be blessed, and you know, go with Jesus.
Bye-bye.
Thank you guys for having me, Robyn and Tracey.
Come back soon. Please come back soon, both of you.
Yeah,
Okay.
come
All
back.
right.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.